Thank you for tuning into our podcast, Vajza Gra. Whether you're a modern woman or a traditional one,
Vajza Gra is established to educate, entertain, and create a safe and inclusive platform to unify and empower Albanian women.
we are your hosts,
My name is Dita.
and my name is Dajana, and we hope you keep an open mind and enjoy the rest of this episode.
Oh, okay. Let's get into it.
5 years later.
Yeah. Welcome to another episode of the greatest podcast in the fucking world,
Vajza Gra.
Vajza Gra.
Thank you for being with us today.
What are we going to talk about today?
We're going to be talking about being the black sheep of the family, the Kim Kardashian of the family,
Black sheeps turns to goats.
period.
Before we get into that, I have a story.
I'm done. Let's hear it.
I just found out my grandpa was a whore. A little korva. And it's
First episode, my grandpa was a whore.
my grandpa was a whore. So I get psychic readings done a lot because I'm a crystal bitch.
Wait, didn't I tell you I wanted to find an Albanian lady that read cups?
Yeah, but the guy who does my psychic readings, he's not Albanian. Like, he doesn't read Turkish coffee cups.
We don't believe them.
But I do have
We need
fucking bitch. But I do have a lady. I just have to get in contact with her daughter.
Well, if one of you's got a lady that you believe and trust in,
honestly, yeah. If
you know where to
if
find
you read
me.
Turkish coffee cups very well, hit our line.
please hit our line. I'm begging.
I have a lot of questions for the universe. Anyways, so
Back to your grandpa being a whore.
back to my grandpa being a whore. It runs in the family. I went to I frequently go to psychics just because when I'm going through certain things in my life, like, and I need answers, I go to psychics. And every time that I go to a psychic, my grandma comes up, like my dad's mother. And I was wondering, I was like, why does she constantly show up in my readings? Like, she comes in right away and like she tells me exactly what I need to hear. And I'm like, this is so fucking interesting.
Wait, I've never done a reading that's not a cup reading. So, like, do they just tell you there's like spirits around you or something?
Yeah. They're like,
Oh, shit.
spirit is coming through. It's your grandmother. And I'm like, oh fuck.
That bitch always got some shit to say.
She's waiting for me to get a reading. She's like, bitch, I need to tell you something. You're not acting right.
Aww.
Yeah, no.
kinda
It's
cute.
really cute. It's really cute. But I was wondering, like, why is she constantly showing up in my readings? Like, there's something that I feel like she needs to tell me or like get through to me, right? So I was in the car with my dad recently and I just asked him, I was like, Bob, like, what was your mom like? Mind you, I've only met her like 3 times. My dad doesn't talk about his parents. Like, me and my dad, we don't have like intimate conversations like that at all. Like, I have to really like get it out of him. And he was telling me that my grandma was like a man and a woman. And I was like, what the fuck do you mean by that? And he was like, well, when I was younger, my dad went to Germany to go work because there wasn't a lot of jobs in Montenegro and there was an abundance.
A lot of people would immigrate.
Yeah, they would. So the men would go to Germany, work, and then send money to the family. And he told me that my grandpa was actually an alcoholic, a raging alcoholic, and that he would work the entire month in Germany and not send them a fucking penny and instead would use it to drink. So he was basically saying that my grandma was like the man of the house and the woman of the house because she had no fucking choice.
That is so crazy. When we were kind of talking about this week's episode and everything, and like I was trying to come up with themes that I wanted to bring up and everything, something I always thought about is like we live in this like patriarchal society.
Yeah.
And like we always think like men have so much power in Albania and like all of these things. But if I think about it, in all of the relationships that have been visible to me throughout my life, women are always wearing the pants.
So this is the point of like me bringing up this story. So my dad was telling me that his other friends, like in the village, like their dads who were in Germany would bring the kids to Germany over like the summer break, right? Whereas my grandpa wouldn't. He would never bring like my dad and his family.
Grandpa had a bitch.
Yo, Okay, exactly. So I was like, Bob, like, are you sure that he didn't have like another family in Germany? And my dad was like, no, because I'm pretty sure on his deathbed, like he would tell me. And I'm like, no, like there has to be so I connected it. I was like, there's something my grandma needs to tell me.
Shit.
And then this information from my dad. So I'm actually going to do like an ancestry DNA test on my dad to see if he has fucking siblings in Germany.
Does that come up? I don't know how this thing
work. That's how a lot of people have like found out like long lost siblings and stuff like that. So I was saying like
this is like a conspiracy theory that you have.
Yeah, well, not really a conspiracy theory. It's just a theory that I have. But I'm really excited to do it because imagine I get like new aunties and uncles. Like, oh, I'm so excited because I thought
you didn't fuck with your family.
I don't fuck with my family now, so that's why I'm so excited. I'm like, I'm gonna have a
More
new
people
family.
You don't fuck with?
No, I'm excited because it's like a new family. Like imagine if I like meet.
Do you think your dad would be down to like meet them and stuff?
Yeah, he's fully with it. He's like kind of excited about it. So,
ooh, okay. Well, you definitely have to keep us updated on that.
Yeah, I will bring the results on the podcast. Yeah, I think that would be a really cool idea. But yeah,
maybe we'll bring your future families into the podcast.
I'm excited for a second chance at a new family that I hopefully will fuck with because I don't fuck with the family I have now. And we're going to get into why that is.
Yes, right
because
now.
we are the black sheeps of our family. So
yeah, sadly. No, not sadly, gladly.
So I told my mom what our topic was going to be for this week about being the black sheep, and she was like, what the fuck is that? So I was like, oh, maybe this is like not a universal thing. Like maybe for like immigrants, they're just like, what the fuck does this mean?
True.
So
let's break it down for them.
Okay. Being the black sheep is used to describe the feeling of being the odd one out or the rebel of the family. It means you are a nonconformist, which means you are a free thinker. You think individually. The way you live your life and your beliefs is completely individual. And an example of this is having a political or spiritual views in your family. And another thing is that because you're a nonconformist and you're a free thinker, they make you feel like you are wrong in the way that you think. And they ostracize you for it. Another thing is that you challenge tradition, which we do a lot. You may be the first in your family to behave a certain way. For example, if you're gay or trans, you are the first person in your family to kind of bring that identity or into the family, or, you know. Another one is you may be the first. I mean, this relates to me, like being the first to go away to college or move out. Before it's deemed appropriate, meaning like before you're married. Yeah, exactly. I use the word deemed appropriate,
but pretty much
before you're married. You may be the first to not go to college and do something creative like me. Well, I went to college. I just dropped out, but
no, that's a big one.
You disassociate from your family. Like you just feel like you don't belong. Maybe you avoid family functions. You avoid family dinners, you know, Thanksgiving and stuff like that. For me, I have to be drunk the whole time because I get so much anxiety because I know they're gonna like ask me questions and I just like don't want to answer any questions. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm just like, you don't really care.
I don't necessarily relate to that portion where it's like I feel so uncomfortable being around so many people that I can't relate to.
Oh no, it's a major thing for me. Yeah.
I'm going to have to pull up to Thanksgiving dinner. See what's up.
Please hold my hand. And then the last sort of point is that you're secretive. So I mean this in the way that you avoid saying what you really feel, or you avoid saying what you're actually doing. You kind of go off grid. Like no one really knows what you're up to because
that's me for sure.
Yeah, because it's like, do you really care to know what I'm doing, or are you just prying?
Yeah.
So that's why I personally am very withdrawn and I don't like people knowing my business. And it's not because I'm trying to be secretive. It's because I know you don't care and I know you're going to question it and it's going to be like this whole thing and whatever. So those are kind of like the elements of what it is to be black sheep. So if you're resonating with any of this, just know that you're not alone. There's a lot of people who are the black sheeps in their family.
100%.
So, I mean, with that being said, like, what made you feel like you were the black sheep of your family? Or like, when did you start to feel like you were the black sheep?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like I started feeling this way from a really young age. Like, ever since I was younger, I wasn't necessarily like acting like how a girl is supposed to act. Like, I wasn't staying next to my mom to learn how to cook. Like, to this day, the only thing I can cook is literally French fries and a fried egg. Like, the first couple months of living on my own in New York were rough because of that. But like from a really young age, when girls start to like try to learn how to cook or stay home and clean, like, that was really not me ever. And this might also have something to do with me having an older sister who kind of took that role, where Yona was like, she like grew up with my grandma, knows how to make every single traditional dish there is. And like, when she was like 14 years old, like, she wasn't going outside to play with her friends anymore. It was more so like she was staying home and cleaning and taking care of me while my parents were working. So I do think a lot of that weight did fall on her, as like being the older daughter in an Albanian household. But I always felt like I was just not a part of like the Albanian definition of a daughter, of a girl. And then especially when I moved to the United States, like, I was very grateful to have a mother that insisted, like, this was my mom's only goal as being a mom, to get me and Yona through like a really good education, so that we could have like a good career and be able to take care of ourselves. Like, her goal was never like a lot of my friends' moms that were like, you need to get married. You need to get married. Like, my mom's always like only statement was like, you can't date, you can't get married until you have a good job, which was like doctor, lawyer, all that stuff.
The basics. Yeah.
But I was grateful for her to have that. And it almost pushed me to become the black sheep even more, even though when I did become the black sheep, it almost was like, okay, you need to tone it down. That's not what we meant, you know? It's like, yes, we wanted you to be successful and like strong, but like sometimes you're too outspoken, or sometimes you're just like going a little too much out of the box. Like, so then it gets you in that point where you're like confused. Like, do you not want me to be this person? Do you not want me to be a strong, independent woman and everything that comes with that?
It was like contradicting.
Yes,
yeah.
Very contradicting. And I feel like a lot of that didn't come from my parents. It came from society. Like, my parents never had issues with us moving out until it was a problem with like our uncles and our cousins. Like, oh, you're going to let them go live in like a dorm? You know what happens in dorms? Like, everybody goes in and out of there. Like, you're not going to let them live at home? Like, why are you sending them to the best university in the country when they could go to a university next door and them like living at home their whole life? It was just like a very confusing time growing up, because I always felt like I just had so much I could accomplish, but there were so many restrictions put on me but also expectations to reach those goals. Like,
yeah,
I don't know if that makes sense. It's just like such a confusing
it's such a hard thing to navigate.
It's like, yes, you want me to go be like the CEO of a company, but I can't do that if I can't go to the university that I busted my ass to get into. You know what I mean? Like, it was very confusing for me, but I always knew from very, very early on, like, I was always way too outspoken. I was always way too loud. Like, you would know I was in the room, no matter what room I walked in, ever since I've been like 6 years old. I feel like when I actually started to comprehend what that was, you would know I was in the room. My opinion was always heard. I never was scared to speak up. Like, and I just knew like something was going to come out of me from a very young age. I've had this feeling that like, I'm going to be that bitch.
Yeah, I think the same way. Like, it wasn't necessarily something that happened. It was always a feeling.
Yes.
Like, when I knew that I was a black sheep in my family, I was very, very young. And, you know, my parents were conservative in their own ways. But the one thing that I kind of have liberty to do was like, I was allowed to go out and I was allowed to dress the way I wanted. I was allowed to wear like crop tops and little short shorts. My parents never put a restriction on like what I wore, because to them it was like a freedom of expression. It wasn't anything to be like
I actually
sexualized.
use fashion as a very like way to express myself.
Yeah, but that was completely different from my other cousins. Like they had to dress very modest. They weren't allowed to wear, you know, provocative things or go out at a young age. So I think that because I was the first to implement that in my family, I was given the role of the rebel. Like I wasn't trying to be rebellious. It was just like everyone just saw what I was doing and thought it was really fucking weird because I was the only one doing it, and was just like, oh, she's the rebel. She's the fucking whore.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So that's so funny that you say that, because from a very young age, I've always like been super into fashion, and like that was a way that I really like was able to express myself. But that was the first way that people outside of my family would notice that I was like the black sheep.
Yeah. It was the way we express ourselves like, outwardly. Yeah. And I mean, like, and besides like expressing myself outwardly, I felt like my ideology and my mentality changed a lot. It was really prominent when I went to high school. You don't know this because you're not from New York, but to get into a high school in New York City is very similar to like applying for college. They take your transcripts from middle school, and then there's an interview process, and then you might have to take a test, and then like you have to write an essay on site. So I ended up getting into a pretty prestigious high school where the curriculum was comparable to that of college. So I was like immersed
ahead of the game.
I was immersed into like high level thinking and high level education from 14 years old. So I kind of went from this sheltered lifestyle to being introduced to all of these like academics and like all of these resources that were presented to me. I mean, we were reading books like George Orwell and like all of these controversial artists, and it was a writing school. So my English classes were very, very intense in the sense that we didn't just like write essays and like read books. No, we like dissected like novels and we talked about it. And I remember every single time that I had left my English class, my way of thinking completely evolved. So at home, it was like, you can't do this because you're Albanian. You can't do this because you're a girl. And then when I go to school, it's like they emphasize like feminism and equality and sex and like all of these things. And I agreed way more with what was being presented to me in school than what was being presented to me at home. Yeah. So I felt like I was living two different lives. And then I realized that it had became an issue when I would be having conversations with family members and they would say something like fucked up, like, they would say something fucked up, and I would be like, and it would be a man most of the time. And I would say something and I would challenge him, and they did not like that. So they didn't like that at all. So not only was I already the fucking like rebel of the family, but now I'm like this outspoken, annoying bitch that like challenges everything that everyone says. Yeah, and it's just like
100%,
you know. And I want to make a point that I was never like shunned from my family. Like, it's not like they were ever like, no, like we're completely rejecting you. It was always a feeling. Like every time I would say something, every time I would do something, people would comment on it, not in a positive way. Like nobody ever fucking gave my mom a phone call when I accomplished something in my life, but they would be the first ones to call them up.
My gosh.
When your daughter posts a bikini picture, you know what I mean?
Literally, I could not relate to anything more.
And so when I was in high school, I was like, okay, I'm like ashamed to admit this, but I was like that feminist bitch that like didn't shave her armpits, and I was like, fuck yeah, like and I would post like really provocative photos on like the internet. Why are you laughing? Yeah, but it was I'm saying that as a point to show that like that's how invested I was into what I was learning, and that's how much like I wanted to be an activist, you know?
So when I first moved to America, I was 11, and then the people that we were living with, like the people that like we lived with until we got situated into our own home and like whatever, they had been in the United States for years and years. So like I figured, me with my child brain, I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to go live with these people who are like Americans. Like we're going to be living with people who like, I don't even know if they're going to be speaking Albanian, you know, type of thing. Like they're going to be so immersed into American culture and like they're going to just be so open-minded. All of these things. Came to find out these people were more close-minded than like many people in Albania, which was so mind-blowing to me. And these were also the people that when my mom, like the main reason why we moved to the United States is so that we can get this great education, get good jobs that we couldn't get in Albania because of like the politics situation and everything. But these were also the people that when my sister and I got into like the best university in the United States, they were the ones to be like, well, why would you send your daughter there? Like they're going to have to live away from home and they're going to be living in dorms and they're going to be like doing whatever they want because you won't be there to like hold their hand throughout the whole situation. And it's like, you've lived in the United States for so long. You would think that people going away to college would be a normal thing. It just blows my mind that people that have had the opportunity to see so many different things that my family wasn't able to see in Albania still had these like mindsets of like a village in the 1800s in Albania. Like
going away to college was a major thing in my family. I'm the first person to go to college in my family. And I remember my goal was to go away to college in California. And when I tell you, I was met with like 4 interventions from like my aunts and uncles, sitting my parents down. I'm like, my parents were kind of okay with the idea of me going away to college because they're like, you know, this is what you want to do, whatever. But it was like the influence of my aunts and uncles being
1,000%.
Do you know what she's going to do if she dorms in college? Like,
I feel like college is a great example for this sort of topic. I mean, there are so many other things that kind of go into it. Like when I went to college, I met friends that were very much like me. I was almost able to find like choose my own family at that point because I was able to find people that I could relate to, people that I could tell my ideas and tell my thoughts to and not feel judged or feel like I was saying something wrong or if I was like I was in the wrong room. I almost felt like I was able to find like my circle of people. And most of them had like a very big social media presence. A lot of them were making money off of social media. So I looked at them and I was like, why can't I do that? Like I can do that. I can make this like a second source of income almost in college because I was already having a job. But it's like, as soon as I started doing that and like to grow my numbers on Instagram and like all of these things, all of a sudden everybody had something to say. Like I went from the like,
why? Because you were posting like risque photos.
Yeah. I was over here like posting like a bikini picture or like
sex sells,
posting
baby.
like a video of me at a college party.
I think a lot of the things that we have done personally are very unheard of within our family. And honestly, from what I know within the Albanian community. So I don't know, to kind of like close it off, like what do you think that we can offer people who feel like they're the black sheep of their family right now?
I just feel like you should, if you feel that way, you should not be scared to feel that way. I think you should embrace that. It's definitely scary. It's definitely scary. And like, especially when you're going against like a group of people, it's like you against, it's like you're getting jumped. And you can never win.
Especially if like you are dependent on these group of people, it's very hard to have like a different way of life or 100%. A different way of thinking, because it's like, well, if I go against the grain, like they're gonna disown me, or they're gonna,
at some point you have to understand that going against the grain does not mean you're not doing what you're, in quotes, supposed to be doing. You're just doing it your own way, and that's totally fine because it's your own fucking life. Like, let people live their life.
Yeah, I think my best piece of advice is to just live with integrity. If you know you're in the position, like you know you're the black sheep, but maybe you're dependent because let's say you're a minor and you're still living with your family, there are opportunities for you. Like for you, it was college to go away and fully express yourself. How do I don't really know how to like put it into words, but it's like if you know that the people around you are kind of restricting you from living the way you want to live and being the way you want to live, plan a life so that you are not dependent on them and that so you can live with your full integrity and don't fucking be ashamed. And it is a scary thing, but you're gonna find people, and I know it sounds very peculiar and it sounds like almost undoable to find like people without outside of your family that have that same sort of loyalty. But I'm telling you right now, the friends that I have chosen in my life have been there for me more than any single family member.
100%.
You know? So yeah, I just want people to know, like, if you're listening to this and you feel like you're the black sheep, like you're really not alone.
Absolutely not. And I feel like there's so many more things that we can go into as far as this topic goes.
I think this is just I feel like this is going to be like a continuous topic because I know that the guests that we plan on having on like have their major own sort of way
black sheep moments.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to dive more into this in future episodes.
I almost feel like this whole podcast is the definition of being a black sheep. Like all of the topics that we're going to be covering, all of the things that we're going to be talking, in one way or another, pull out the idea of you being different, you having ideas about things that don't necessarily relate to your family members or people that you're around, like growing up around. So like in conclusion, this whole podcast is black sheep.
Owning being the black sheep. Listen, if you're the black fucking sheep of your family and you're scared and it's an uncomfortable feeling, you got two bitches right here who are the black sheeps and we're here for you.
Let's wrap this up.
Yeah, let's wrap this up. You can find us on all platforms and social media. You can find us on Instagram at Vajza Gra. This will be available on Apple Music, Spotify, SoundCloud maybe, and on YouTube. You can see our pretty faces on YouTube.
You can see our pretty faces and watch it with your grandparents and parents and everybody else because it'll be in subtitles on it. So
yes. All right. Well, that being said, cheers, bitches.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. We cannot wait to touch on the next topic. Mwah.
We have our little manager in the background here who's telling us, tell them to like, share, subscribe.
No, that's you.
That's me. Okay. Are you ready? Okay. I've been waiting to do this. All right. Give us 5 stars on Apple Music and Spotify. If you're watching us, our pretty faces on YouTube, like, share, subscribe. I fucked up. You get the fucking gist of it.
Period. You know where to find us. Follow us on Instagram. Comment. Stay engaged. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Ciao.